Well, let's jump right on ahead to the 2006 season. All right. One of the most successful seasons in school history. This will be your third season as head coach. 8-3 overall, sub-region champs. We'll do a brief rundown of the schedule here. Just some of the highlights here. We beat Gilmer at home again, 14-13. We beat Robbinsville on the road, 36-20. Beat Putnam on the road, 33-20. Hosted Oglethorpe and beat them 49-13. We beat Union 43-7. And we went down Highway 52 to Dawsonville and beat them 35-0. Hosted Banks and won 35-21. Beat Rabun 6-2 in a sub-region championship, which I want to talk to you at length about because there's a lot of good stories in that game. We did lose the region championship, and we hosted Manchester in the playoffs. New region this year. We 8 AA, but still, there just because we dropped a classification, there's some very good teams in this region. You've got on the other side, you have Washington Wilkes, who has always been a power in Georgia, Greene County, Morgan, Oglethorpe, Putnam, and North Oconee, which was a sleeping giant. They didn't even play a region schedule, I believe, that year.
That's right.
According to these records, they went 7-3. And then we had on our side Rabun, Banks, Dawson, and Union. So jumping right on ahead, hold on, I think I've got I believe I can pull up the 2006 seniors right now. But jumping right ahead, hosting Gilmer County first game, beat them 14-13. Another close Gilmer game, just as we talked about in the previous episode, Coach. Players of the game that week offensively was Caleb Franklin. Matt Gaddy was our defensive player of the week, and Derek Jarningham was special teams player of the week. What do you remember from that game?
Well, what I remember most about that game is, Ryan Deal got hurt. He was our quarterback for 2 years. As a matter of fact, he started a couple games when he was a freshman, and he got hurt in the off season. And, Derek had to step in and play quarterback. So we didn't have him for that game. We didn't have Matt Hensley for that game, and Ryan Daly got knocked out a week before. So we didn't even have those guys against Gilmer. So, but we changed our offense that year. We went to a power wishbone away from the wing tee. And if you see those guys here in the picture, you'll see Jeremy Caleb's, Tommy Skaggs. We upgraded our offensive line, okay? And then Meeks came into the picture and played as a sophomore on that team. And anyway, to make a long story short, we just decided we're just going to push people off of football. And we had Gaddy ran fullback for us. We had Reese would play some hack, and then Kocius was the guy that took off that year. Kocius used to Ryan is who I'm talking about. Ryan, he did his time as a freshman, sophomore, just getting his brains kicked out on the scout team, because there's not a whole lot of blocking, and we had some really good defenses in 2004, 2005. So he earned his stripes. And
the Kocius brothers were just true Fannin County Rebels.
And that's the thing is, so many of those kids, Callahan's family, what I'm saying, Kocius family, all those kids play, just tough kids, you couldn't do anything to those guys that would make them quit. You know what I'm saying? They were just tough guys.
Gaddies.
Kocius, break. Oh yeah, the Gaddy brothers, absolutely. All the Flowers boys played there.
Of course,
all the Reeses
great brother
there. I didn't get to
coach
the
Reeses, of course.
He graduated before I got there, but Aaron, at 140 pounds, Aaron Reese, it's a good thing he wasn't 6'2", 200 because, they probably would have kicked him out for killing people.
And just to go off Chad Reese is a good football coach.
Absolutely.
He actually led a team 2 years ago to won the Super Bowl. Of course, I work with the rec department, and they won the Super Bowl, beat Dawson in the
I
Super
don't
Bowl.
doubt
They
it.
lost in the regular season, and then beat
I
the
don't
brakes off
doubt
them in
it.
the Super Bowl about 35-7.
Well,
But Chad's a good.
Tim,
The Reeses, they're
I'll
great
tell you
families.
this. Yeah, I'll tell you this. Anybody who's ever played or coached under Coach Harbin, I have full knowledge that there is no doubt in my mind that you would be a good football coach. If you understand what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
Coach Harbin, he doesn't get any credit for any of this, but he deserves a lot of credit for this. Okay.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to touch on that. He left in 2004, but he did not leave the cupboard empty. And, but he put together, he helped me so much with my career. He helped me so much be a coach,
Yeah.
He always playing what if with you, always playing what if. I mean, this guy was a what if guy if there ever was one. And, you better have an answer. And Coach, he put so much pressure on me during the games. He turned into somebody else. And, of course, I didn't realize it, but so did I. When I look at some of those old videos back in the day, Tim, ETC used to cover our games, and they used to cover a lot of them because at that point in time, we were the program in the mountains.
Yeah.
And
Dave
so
Garn,
we had
Larry
a lot
Prather.
of games on that TV. Yeah, absolutely. And, I used to see myself on the sideline, and I used to go, Clark, that's just ridiculous. And other people would tell me, Coach, why'd you go after that ref? And I didn't even remember, I'd give the refs a hard time. I mean, you become something else,
Yeah.
because, you don't ever want to feel like your kids have gotten cheated. You don't ever want to feel like, I was very protective of our kids. Okay. And, they work too hard to let somebody take it away from them, and of course, unfortunately, I'm never going to blame the refs, but we had some situations in the past where I felt like, oh my God, look at that. I didn't have any gray hair at all back then. Oh my gosh. Oh, I was such a young guy back then. But anyway, just great. Our kids were great. And, but like I said, Tim, it was that Gilmer game. I remember so much of that. We scored on we had a play action pass they had never seen before off a counter play. Sean Powers was wide open. Derek hit him down the sideline, wide open. That made it 7-0. They hit us on a pass, tied it up, and then we opened up the second half, 7 plays, 72 yards, all of them running plays, and I think we ran the same play over and over again.
Wow.
Coach just ran it in for a touchdown, and we just ran double dive is what we called it, which is, some people call it other things, but it's just where you fake it to Gaddy and give it to the second man through, which was Coach's. And then, Reese was, blocking whoever was there. Patrick Callahan was killing his guy, and, just they couldn't stop it,
Yeah.
And, but the refs in that game, made sure that it stayed close because we got penalized on a lot of, third and shorts, which made it third and long, and we weren't a third and long team. We had a bad call on a muff punt that game. That should have been our ball. They gave it to Gilmer, most incredible, craziest call I've ever seen. It went against us, but again, you cannot blame refs. I used to tell our guys all the time, you have to overcome bad calls. And we did in that game. They missed an extra point to tie it there late in the game. And, that's basically how we won. But, a lot of people didn't think we could win that game, to be honest with you. With the losses that we had, with Ryan not playing and, Hensley not being able to play, and of course Ryan Daly not being able to play. a lot of folks thought, that was going to end our run that night.
Yeah.
So anyway, but we got it done. Got it done.
That moved you to 3-0 in your career against Gilmer.
Yep.
Then the next week we traveled to Robbinsville.
Yep.
Beat them 36-20. Aaron
Yep.
Reese, player of the week on offense, Terry Flowers defense, and Justin Hall on special teams.
Yep.
And then we
Terry
had
Flowers intercepted a pass for a touchdown that game, which turned it around right before halftime. I'll never forget that. I also never forget this, Tim. We were Robbinsville had looked so bad in their first game, and I'll never forget Coach Markram started laughing because they looked so bad. And I told Coach Markram, I said, Coach, we got to go up there. I said, they're going to play lights out, get ready. And anyway, they were beating us. I think they were up on us, Tim, if I'm not mistaken. I think they scored twice on us before we scratched. And I remember telling Coach Markham, and I'm sure everybody could hear, I said, where's the joke at now? They were beating us, and we came back and won. Matter of fact, we used every quarterback we had in the program that game. Derek, for some reason, he couldn't catch a snap in the pregame. It was just the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and then he fumbled a snap in the game. We ended up playing Ryan a little bit at quarterback, but I was so petrified that something was going to happen to him, because of his leg. I mean, I don't even know if he can still raise his toes anymore. Last time I talked to him, he couldn't. That was 9 years ago. But then we used Sean Powers as a quarterback. Anyway, we use a lot of guys, but we ended up getting it done up there. We got so many penalties that game; it was just crazy. I mean, So anyway,
then we traveled to Pickens the following week. We lost 31-14. Players of the week though that week: Matt Gaddy on offense, Justin Hall defense, and Nathan Newman. Special teams player of the week.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, in that game, we took the lead in that game 14-7 in the third quarter on a blocked punt. And, there's a stat out there that says if you block a punt, you win 88% of the time. Well, not that game. Apparently, it just woke up a sleeping giant. Derek, that was the only game he didn't start at quarterback for us. We let Sean Powers play quarterback for us that game. And then I was making you got to understand, Tim, Derek Jarnigan was one of my favorite kids, but I'm telling you, nobody got it worse from a coach than Derek Jarnigan did from me. I expected excellence from him. And, but anyway, he got back in the rotation after that loss, and we never looked back. But I had a lot of expectations for Derek. And what a great kid he was. I'm telling you what, man, he could do some things that, but anyway, great kid. Just honor to coach and his development over 4 years. Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. I remember him coming up when Trevor was a freshman, him throwing. I mean, he could throw it 70 yards flat-footed. It's just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Fannin County throughout, has always been blessed with pretty good quarterback play. Throughout the whole school system.
You talk about a blessed coach. I had Brian Deal, Derek Jarnigan, Nick Dean, Trevor Stone. That was it. Yeah. Those were the guys that took snaps for us. Now we had there was occasion where we had Devin Moore snap, took some plays. Of course, there were other guys that played backup, that got some snaps in there, but those were our main guys. I mean, how lucky was I? What I'm saying?
And just even follow Trevor, you had Brad Davis, who was a good quarterback. Chandler Smith, and the Holloway kid right now, Luke Holloway is he's a great quarterback. So in Fannin County, he's always been blessed.
That Davis boy, he played for us. His older brother played for us.
Brett,
and and so I think the Davis boy,
Brett backed up Nick, I believe.
He sure did. And then he went to concentrate on baseball, and that's where we ended up with Trevor and Will in our program. And but anyway, I understand the Davis boy broke all the throwing records up there after I left, and so that's good. That's really good.
He was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
So now we go to Putnam County. First time going to Putnam County. Long haul from Blue Ridge.
Oh yeah.
I think we got out of school about 11:30.
Yeah.
We win 33-20, which was a other side of the region win for us.
Yeah. The only game I know of that we played South I-20, that I know of. I mean, there may be another one, but I don't know of one. Only game South I-20 that we ever played. Great game down there, man. They wanted to beat us to death, and I tell you, that's when I knew we were special, because they had tried to turn it into a fist fight. You know what I'm saying, Tim?
Yeah.
They got frustrated because we were hitting them pretty good, and they tried to turn it into a fist fight. And our guys, they kept their composure. You follow me?
Yeah.
And we whipped them pretty soundly. After they tried to make it into a fist fight, and I'm not trying to talk bad about Putnam's program. I mean, we have done some things, ourselves. We're not, like I said, we're not, all angels either. Okay. We've done some things that I'm not very proud of, and the kids aren't very proud of, but that's when I knew we were special though, Tim, is because we didn't back down, and we didn't lose our cool.
Yeah.
I'll never forget though, that game, Matt Hensley, you got to understand, Matt Hensley got hurt in that Robbinsville game. Yeah. Didn't even play in the Pickens game.
Hensley was the defense player of the week that week. Jeremy King was offensive. Hensley was defense, and Nathan Newman again on special teams.
Yeah. So let me tell you, I'll tell you a story about Matt Hensley. We weren't going to let Matt play in that game, and because he was still hurt. He hurt himself pretty good, his ankle. And I'll never forget, it came crunch time. He pulled on my shirt, said, "Coach, put me in the game." This was on defense. He didn't want to run, it wasn't like he was like, "Give me the ball," guy. He was like, "Put me in on defense." Well, we had Devin and Devin Morris, and he was played for us, and Casey Rogers had played a little bit. Casey had come out and started playing football for us in 2005. Mm-hmm. And I knew he was going to be special. But, the thing of it was, those guys weren't ready for that, being as young as they were at that time. They weren't ready for that, kick out block that they were getting from the guards and stuff. So Hensley, he looked at me, and I swear I saw fire in that man's eyes. Said, "Put me in, Coach." And I was like, oh, gosh. Well, anyway, when we put Hensley into the game, that got our old defense back, okay?
Yeah.
I ended up taking Casey and Devin out of the game, and I'll never forget how mad they were, and for being taken out of the game, which I respected, They were not very happy about having to leave that game. And I told them, I said, "Guys, you didn't do anything wrong." I said, "But Hensley is fit to be tied right now. We're going to ride with it." And let me tell you something, they never ran another buck sweep in that direction ever again. I can promise you that. Because Hensley was all over the place. I mean, unbelievable. And you say he got defensive player of the game?
Yeah, he was defensive player of the game.
No doubt.
Yeah, and Nathan Newman was special teams.
Yeah, Nathan Newman was special on special teams. I'm telling you, he blocked the punt. He's one that blocked the punt in the Pickens game the week before. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
That's somebody who loves the Fannin County Rebels. That's Nathan Newman. I remember Nathan. He just loved Fannin County Rebel football.
I tell you, somebody who put in a lot of work and he would just do whatever he could to help us out. He just wanted to play. That was it. So we found him a place to play, and I tell you, he took it and ran with it. So, great kid, Nathan was.
Following week, we're back home. Took us a long time to get back home, but we're back home. We absolutely beat the brakes off Oglethorpe, 49-3.
It was 3-0. It was 3-0 in that game. I remember that.
So we scored 49 unanswered. Then Ryan Kosas, your offensive player of the week, Terry Flowers defensively, and Bryant Meeks gets his first player of the week honors as a special teams player of the week.
Well, I don't know what Meeks did on special teams because I can't remember ever having him on special teams. So he'd have to remind me on that. He must have done something.
No clue.
He must have done something on a block field goal or extra point team or something because he didn't play a lot you know, he was one of our guys that played both ways, so we didn't use him a lot on special teams. But I do remember Will Godfrey hitting that out route, that kid, and causing a fumble. We scooped it up and scored. It turned that game around right there. It was 7-3 at that point in time, if I'm not mistaken. And Will hit this kid. I mean, it was vicious hit, and it changed the game. You know, and a lot of times too, you know, you know, that was one of those games that just got out of hand because, you know, they snapped it over the guy's head, and we recovered it in the end zone. So it wasn't that bad. You know, it just looked bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I know one thing: we got to be able to put a lot of those kids that were on that 07 team. They got a lot of playing time in that game and some of the other games. You know, because of, you know, the way the score was. So.
Yeah. Following week, we're back at home. We beat Union 43-7. So that's 92 points in the last 2 games. Will Godfrey, Offensive Player of the Week. Justin Hall, I think my math's right. Will Godfrey, Offensive. Justin Hall was a Defense Player of the Week. And Jarnigan was Special Teams Player of the Week that week. So 43-7 at home versus Union. That's our 1-0 in the sub-region now. Yeah.
That's when they broke out that Owenby kid. He's a freshman, and he beat Will Godfrey down the sideline. Not trying to say anything bad about Will, but trust me, that Owenby kid, that was Owenby and guy who was that receiver. Jeez. Anyway, what he did to us his sophomore year, whew, man. Anyway, Gowder was his name.
Oh, Blake Gowder. Blake Gowder. I think he went to play at Vanderbilt, if I'm not mistaken, Coach.
Yes, he did. Oh, he gave us fits.
He was a football player.
Let me tell you something. If you're a freshman, you beat Will as fast as Will Godfrey was down the sideline and make a circus catch like that, like he did. You know, Will couldn't believe it. Nobody had done that to him. And I said, hey, he come over the sideline. I said, oh, Will, he's a freshman. He was like, you got to be kidding me. He was like, he can play. I was like, oh, yeah. And then the next, those are some funny stories right there because we had to contend with that kid, you know, from 2007, 2008, 2009, you know, and trust me, none of it was fun. So.
And then we traveled to Dawsonville, beat them 35-0.
Yeah, well, that was a circled game right there, bud. That was a circled game. We had gotten word that the coach had told one of coaches that I used to communicate a lot with. He said they were talking about the new region setups, and anyway, he said, well, you need to watch out for Fannin because they got a lot of kids coming back next year. And the old coach, he said, well, you know, we're not too worried about Fannin.
Okay.
So I told our kids about that. So that was a circle game right there.
And 35-0 was the score. Patrick Callahan was Offensive Player of the Week. Justin Hall defensively, and Jeremy King on special teams.
Well, you got to understand, Patrick Callahan took a 3-year starter at Georgia Tech and moved him all over the field that night. Okay.
Was that the Walls kid that played Dawson? Yeah. Logan Walls, I think, was his name.
Yeah. And I'll never forget Patrick Callahan. One time he blocked him, and Hensley scored a touchdown. And Patrick said, Georgia Tech, you know. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you know, you knew we were special. You know, like I said, you know, a kid like Patrick Callahan, he was, you know, he came in, he looked like his little brother, Cody, you know what I'm saying? And old Catfish, and he was very small, and boy, did he grow, my goodness. Just a man. You know, I tell you, and this is what you're talking about, Tim. You're talking about a kid when he was in 9th, 10th, 11th grade. You know, I don't want to embarrass Patrick, but he had asthma so bad. It was vicious. It was vicious. And he would get those asthma attacks during the sprints. And, you know, he would finish his sprints, okay, before he left the practice field. Okay, after he had to take his asthma medicine and everything. He wouldn't just, you know, do 6 and then, you know, call it a day. If everybody had to do 12, Patrick was going to do 12. You see what I'm saying? That's when I knew we had a special team, you know, and it wasn't because we made him, okay? It was because he wanted to. There wasn't nobody going to outdo him. And that, you
Yeah.
talk about tough. And, so anyway, and it was funny because it seemed like as Patrick got older, that asthma seemed to go away.
Yeah.
He didn't have as much problems his senior year. He can make all his runs and stuff. And so, great kid. Man, what a success story on a football field. I'm telling you what, my goodness. Great kid.
So now we're 7-1, Coach, heading into hosting Banks County. We beat them 35-21, which sets up the sub-region championship game. But before we get into that, the Banks County game, Matt Hensley, Offensive Player of the Week, defensive Matt Gaddy, and Justin Minner gets in on the Special Teams Player of the Week.
Justin Minner. Yep. Great kid. He came up from the JV late that year, helped us out with special teams. Because a lot of those kids, like I said, that was a sophomore. We didn't play a lot of sophomores and freshmen, and no freshmen played. And not, maybe, like I said, Casey Rogers, Devin Morris, and the whole, if you notice, the one kid that didn't get a whole lot of playing time was Josh Gaddy. Now Josh Gaddy was our superstar in 07 and 08.
He was our horse.
But he didn't get to play a whole lot because the position that he was playing was filled by his brother, and so there wasn't any room for Josh. So, but anyway, Justin Minner was a great player. His brother Brandon was there's another family of Minner kids.
Yes, Minner family, of course.
Sold out. Yeah, sold out. I mean, just you could count on those kids. They were going to be there. Justin played his whole senior year with a broken hand. That was in 08, but, big time contributor to our program.
Yeah.
But, we fumbled the first play of that game. We put Ryan in the quarterback. It was senior night. We let Ryan run.
It was senior night.
Quarterback,
it was.
And then they fumbled. Yeah, we fumbled the first play of the game. Not saying it was Ryan's fault, but they hit us. They missed us right there. And anyway, they scored they recovered the fumble, scored a touchdown on the first play of the game. They gave us fit. That's that kid they had. We had to contend with him in 07 and 08. In 08, we didn't contend with him very well, but in 07, we handled him pretty good. But yeah, dealing with that guy, he was an incredible football player. Anyway.
Yeah. So now it sets up the sub-region championship, and this. And I think a lot of people, if you were at this game or knew the game, was probably it ended up being one of the biggest games in Fannin County history, but one of the greatest ones. We win. We go up to Tiger, Georgia. Coach, it was a cold night. I remember it. It was cold.
Man,
I'm pretty sure it was
buddy.
I think it was in the 20s. May have been colder than that.
Yeah.
It may have been colder than that. So we got
Hensley. Yeah. Matt Hensley had the flu that morning. He came into school, and so during the weight training part, we had him on the couch sleeping, trying to get him, we couldn't get him right. But we went up there, and I told our kids, I prepared them all week. I said, how cold it is here in Blue Ridge. Well, it's going to be 20 degrees colder when you get over there, boys. Don't trust me. It's going to be.
And it was. I'm pretty sure it was windy too.
In Rabun County. Oh, yeah, late October in Rabun County, you can almost book it. It's going to be colder than anything you've ever felt.
And we won the game too. We won the game 6-2. But I want to talk about this. So if I'm not mistaken, it was 0-0 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
it was 0-0 fourth quarter. I think Jarnigan throws a pass. It may have been a go route down the sidelines.
Yeah,
I think it bounced off the Rabun County defender's helmet, and Godfrey caught it for 6. Is that how you remember?
I don't know if it went like that, but I know Will caught it off his helmet, and he pinned it up against his helmet and ran into the end zone. It was a great catch. They had a one of their really, really good players was covering him man to man. Well, they took him out, and we saw that, and we checked to it. Checked to a fade to Will. And, Will's, like I said, he's one of the fastest guys I've ever coached. And, he caught that ball. Jarnigan threw it perfect. He caught it right off his helmet. Will had a penchant for making some serious crazy catches.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. Interesting side note to that game, we had punted 8 times in 2006 up to that point, 8 times in 9 games. We punted 8 times in that game.
Wow.
That's a fact.
Well,
Yeah.
and so we scored though, but the game is not over though, Coach. The game's not over.
No, it's not.
So I think, if I'm not mistaken, Rabun drives the field on us, and I think, well, I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. We get a turnover, and we get the ball. We get the ball in their red zone. So I think we got the ball like maybe on our 15-yard line. I think you told Jarnigan to run through the end zone for a safety. Am I wrong?
What happened was we drove it out to about the 35, maybe the 40 even. I don't know. But then we were sitting there. We had 4th down, and of course, they had run out all their timeouts, and so all we were doing is milking the clock. And all of a sudden, it became, there was like 20 seconds to go in the game.
Yeah.
And so here I am. You got to understand, Tim. I'm running through all these scenarios in my head. Okay, because you have to understand how much bad luck did we have in 05 and 06. I mean, just stuff that we lost 7 games by a point is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what is going to happen if we punt this ball? They're going to return it for a touchdown, or they're going to block it. Okay, they're going to block the kick and take it into the end zone. So I decided, crazily, I said, Derek, just take the snap and just run around in the back of the end zone and milk as much time as you can. Now, I trusted our kickoff team because our kickoff team was loaded, okay?
Yeah. I
didn't necessarily trust our punt return team because we didn't have the same athletes on the field. Our punt team didn't have, we just didn't have the same athletes. I wanted to make sure we had Will Godfrey out there. I wanted to make sure we had, Aaron Reese,
Matt
running through
Hensley,
I mean, Matt, I don't know if he was able to play, but at least I knew that, Will was our safety. So if anything broke loose, he could run it down, But see, like on the punt team, we didn't have those athletes out there. And so anyway, I mean, it was just all, you don't have a lot of time to think about these things. Well, if you remember, Tim, they had it was so cold and they didn't have the field marked off real good.
Yeah.
And the pylon was behind the goal line. Well, Derek did exactly what I told him to, run to the end line and then just run around. Well, when he stepped out of bounds or out of the end zone, which left them some time left. Not his fault, okay, but no big deal. We just had to kick off and defend 2 plays, and then we won the game. But, you're just sitting there thinking, okay, here it goes. This is the one time we're going to kick it off to them, and they're going to, they're going to break free, and this is it. And I'm going to be the GOAT. They don't even have to hit the extra point. Man, I tell you what, I was puckered up. I promise you, I was scared to death. But I did not. What was so crazy? Like Tim, you remember that game, and I, obviously I remember the game. What I remember most was all the fans that we had there. I could not believe it.
Well, Coach,
I never turned around the whole game to even notice it.
As me being young, I think that was one of my first. Well, of course, we went to other road games, but that was probably my furthest trip because I remember I never went to Putnam or Oglethorpe.
Well,
I remember making that trip.
The First Baptist Church brought a whole bus up there.
Yeah, and that may have been how I got. I may have rode with the church. I can't even remember how I got there. All I remember is Will Godfrey catching a pass and me hugging everybody and it was pandemonium in the stand.
I had people I didn't even know coming up and hugging me. I was like, whoa, who are you? It was great.
Yeah,
everybody was excited.
It was pandemonium, man. It was a lot of fun.
It was
a lot of fun.
Tim, you have no idea how good that felt, for those kids, and here's the thing. It's like anything else, there's going to come a time where you're going to get brought down to earth, and that time got brought to us the following week, but anyway, we'll get into that.
Yeah, we definitely enjoyed it that week. Probably, in my opinion, the most fun I ever had at a high school football game. It It was a lot of fun. So
It
that clinched the sub-region for us. We came in first. Raven was in second. Banks was in third. Dawson fourth, and Union fifth. Washington Wilkes won the region won the sub-region on their side. So we had to go to Washington Wilkes.
They beat Josh Nesbitt in Greene County, who I thought we were going to end up having to play. I thought that Greene County was the best team over there. Come to find out, they weren't. It was Washington Wilkes. Oh my goodness!
So the players of the week, the Washington Wilkes game, we lose 45-21. But the players of the week, offensively, was Evan Collins. We did not have a defensive player listed for the player of the week.
No.
And Joe Travis was the special teams player of the week. Nope. Coach, if I'm not mistaken, now I made this trip too. Me and my dad went to this game. I remember it. Was there something wrong with the locker room? I remember talking to all the players when we got down there.
They had Washington Wilkes had put about 3 inches of water in our locker room.
Yeah.
So you had to.
So we make a 2.5, 3 hour drive, and then we get to the locker room, and we can't get into the locker room.
Yeah, and plus if you put your socks on, it's going to be soaking wet.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and then our equipment bus didn't show up till 7 o'clock that night, and so we couldn't even have a regular pregame. Very frustrating. Now, I'm not going to throw anybody under the shade, but tell you what, that was frustrating for our equipment bus not to be there on time. Anyway, and then, of course, we had to play Washington Wilkes. And they told us –
I think they had a running back who went to UConn, I believe. He was really good.
They had a couple of guys. They had a quarterback that could throw it out of this world. They had another kid, number 10, probably one of the most active – smartest football players I've ever seen. He could just, he was all over the place. And they had a linebacker. I'll never forget, they were playing Lincoln County that year. We had that tape. And this linebacker, there was a kid from Lincoln County that broke free in the open field, and this linebacker just walked him down. And I was like, oh, my goodness, are you kidding me? And so, anyway, our offensive line, we had moved people all year long. They had a nose guard who was 370 pounds at least.
Yeah.
And he was a man. We're not talking about a guy who just was big and couldn't play. He was 370 and could play. And Evan got player of the week because Evan went into that game and he wasn't scared of anybody. He competed. And he stuck his nose up in there. And, and he succeeded where others had failed, So that's why. And then defensively, we didn't give it to anybody because it was, without a doubt, the worst defensive performance we had ever put on the field, Mm-hmm. And, what was I going to do? It was a total team failure, starting with me, all the way down on defense. And so I just decided, you know what, Kevin, I'm not giving. This is unacceptable. It was a region playoff game, and we didn't have a single guy, step up and meet the challenge. And they know they didn't. I mean, I'm not saying anything out of school right there. They know. And, people think, Coach, well, you're a jerk, and you were probably mad and yelling at them the whole way home. Shoot, no, we were telling jokes on the bus on the way home. I mean, you get a whipping that bad, there's no sense in even dwelling on it.
No, and you can't be hard on them too much because you're hosting a state playoff game the next week. So
yeah. And so luckily for us, like I said, we got a state playoff game. The week before, we were studying up on who our opponent was going to be, and I was making calls down there to Central Georgia. Macon County and all the teams in that region. Mm-hmm. And I was asking them, I was like, who's the best team? And they were like, well, Macon County said, well, we finished number 1, but Manchester's the best team. They just didn't have their best players when they played us. And they couldn't, and I was like, great. And so, then I called the Lamar County. They finished second. They were like, yeah, Manchester, I'd say they're the best team. They go, who you draw? I said, well, if we win Friday night, we'll draw the 4 seed. If we lose, we're going to draw the 3 seed. And they were like, well, Manchester's the 3 seed. And I was like, great. So anyway, Yeah, very unlucky. The two games that they lost, they didn't have their quarterback and their good running back.
Yeah.
They came in, they had everybody, they were full speed. Our kids competed great that night. We gave it everything we had. The unfortunate part of it is we practiced for probably 4 hours on Wednesday because we just, we got tired, Tim,
Yeah.
and our players will tell you that. We got tired. We weren't focused anymore. So I got upset. We kept practicing until, things looked a little better than what they did. Probably had an effect on us in the game. But of all the playoff games that we played, I'd say that was the best team that we played. And we competed the best in that game against that team. The other playoff games, we, for reasons, like I said, for various reasons, we didn't put up our best effort in state playoff games. And that's not to call out the kids. It was because of injury. 2007 was strictly injury. We just ran out of guys. And in 2010, we were just too young to play a GAC nose to nose, for 4 quarters. And so,
and you had a freshman quarterback that year too.
We had way too many freshmen playing that year.
Yeah. Not a knock against Trevor Stone, great friend of mine.
No. How we even got there was a miracle in and of itself, So,
and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I do want to mention Players of the Week for the Manchester game, which was the first. Still, coach's very successful season. Nothing. I mean, obviously, we definitely want to go farther than we did. But first, we're hosting a playoff game, and first time being back in a playoff since '95, I believe, in school history. So it's been 11 years since Fannin County been back in the playoffs. Still a successful season. Manchester Players of the Week offensively was Ryan Deal, Matt Gaddy was defensively, and Jarnigan was special teams. But I think the hard part was coach, this senior class that graduated.
It was very tough.
It definitely stinks to lose all them guys.
Well, I tell you what, Tim, those guys have been through it all, and they've been with me. Those guys were sophomores when I took over as the head coach, and of course a lot of them played for me in 2003, as a defensive coordinator. But those guys, they married up, and it meant something to them. And like I said, when we, in the last the last outtake was, Jack and Bill and those guys, the guys that had come before them had, set the standard, and those guys lived up to that standard. The problem was that we always had is we just always, when you're playing as many guys, we're playing Ironman football, in 2006, we got a lot of kids going both ways. I'm sure Aaron Reese never left the field except maybe some plays on offense. He was on every special team pretty much, defensive every snap. It's just, we just always ran out of guys, or we just, Matt Gaddy played both ways. There's only so much you can do, what I'm saying, over, a 10 game. Well, plus you got 2 scrimmage games. It's 12 games. You got a playoff game. It's 13. When those guys are playing both ways, there's going to be games where they're not sharp, and so that's what you run into, Tim, But anyway, like I said, not blaming anybody. I couldn't be prouder of them. They lost that game. Ryan Deal came in through 2 touchdown passes against Manchester that night, as quarterback. He came in
and great for Ryan to end his career on that.
Absolutely. And, I was just, like I said, I cry, thinking about it, but he got knocked out. He couldn't protect himself, and one of those Manchester boys put a lick on him, and he didn't know where he was at. We had to put Derek back in the game, which is no big deal. Wasn't like, Derek wasn't qualified to do it, but Ryan had kind of uplifted us in that game. You know what I'm saying? He was, got us 2 touchdowns, put us in a tie, and then he gets knocked out of the game, but he, just, like I said, bad luck, and I was scared to death. He took a vicious hit, And I'm so worried about his leg, and he was like, Coach, I don't know where I'm at. Like, come on over here and sit down. Come over here and sit down. We'll tell you all about it afterwards. Nobody competed harder than Ryan Deal. Nobody wanted to win more than Ryan Deal. Great kid. I hated what happened to him his senior year. That still haunts me to this day. Was I right by the kid? You know what I'm saying? Did I do right by him? I felt like I was, but Ryan was a guy, he wanted to play, and so we ended up playing him some at defensive end, and what a competitor. I mean, my goodness. They
just had to be on the football field.
Well, we had to figure out a way to get him on the field, but we had to protect him too, Tim. And, that's the whole thing. And Ryan had a career pitching. If he could get if he could ever get his leg back right. I mean, what a pitcher he was.
Ryan could throw a baseball.
Well, with the injury that he had to his leg, football was pretty much over for him. But see, Ryan didn't see it that way. He wanted to be out there with his brothers, and he didn't care. So we're trying to balance out all that. It's
competitor, such a competitor.
You don't want to, like I said, I'm trying to balance out, what's right for the kid, what's right for our team. Golly, I want the kid to play, but God, if something happens to him, I'll never be able to, you know what I'm saying, to live with myself if something happens. I mean, so anyway, just like I said, it was just one of those rough situations, man. What do you do? It
was a good run and a great group of seniors. That definitely helped set the foundation for the 2007 season.
Yeah, it sure did.
I
tell you, Tim.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. And I was just saying, a lot of our kids that were seniors, Terry Flowers, Jeremy King, some other guys hung around and helped with Logan Daves, Jeffrey Daves, Bryant Meeks.
Brandon Coaches, George Salinas.
They sat around there and got those guys, they taught them how to do it the Fannin way, and that is what I always remember. And I'll never forget, we used to always chide those guys because they were talented. They were very talented kids. Mm-hmm. And we used to always chide them. I'll never forget, Caleb Franklin, he'd go, Coach, he goes, I got a prediction for you for next year. He goes, I think 2-8 next year. And let me tell you something, that's stuck in those boys' craws now. I'm going to tell you. And that's it. And people say, well, Coach, you can't motivate people like that. Well, yeah, that's how I was motivated. Tell me I can't do something. By gosh, I'm going to show you,
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the way our kids work. And I tell you, but that's a whole different story in and of itself. When we get to 2007, I'm a wreck. I mean, I am a complete wreck by this point in time, because I lost all my guys, the guys that have been with me. So, the Evan and Derek and Sean Powers, Sean didn't even play for us his sophomore year. I'll never forget Sean. He came to the weight room his sophomore year after he quit. And I said, Sean, this is probably not a good place for you to be. And he said, Coach, I'm staying in weightlifting. I said, why? I said, you're not playing football anymore. I said, I don't want you in here distracting us. He said, Coach, I'm playing next year. He goes, I made a bad mistake. I made a stupid decision. Yeah. And see, I loved it when our guys respectfully stood up to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I was doing. I was challenging them. Okay.
Yeah.
And when they respectfully stood up to me, they didn't ever hear nothing from me ever again. Again. Because like I said, I would put a challenge in front of them. And, like Sean, he was like, Coach, I'm not going anywhere. I don't care what you say. And I was like, hey, you got my respect, brother. You know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? Most guys turned tail and said, you know what, I'm never coming back here. But anyway, Sean ended up being what a special player he turned out to be in 07.
He was a great receiver. Yeah. Coach, 9-2. Best season you've had. Best season you had. 9-2, ended up winning the region championship that year. Very special year.
Yeah.
We'll go over the schedules and player of the week soon, but just covering the highlights here. We traveled down to Huff Mosley and beat Gilmer 17-7. if I'm not mistaken, Gilmer had about 20 seniors on that team. They were a senior loaded team in that year. If I could be wrong though.
That was the
But
same team that was the same team that basically almost beat us the year before with all those kids that I was telling you about.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we beat
that we
Robbinsville
just
42-0 in the home opener. We beat Putnam barely beat Putnam 13-11, beat Oglethorpe 28-2, beat Union 45-19, beat Dawson 13-7. We traveled to Banks and won 42-28, beat Raven again 21-14, and then we beat Morgan for the region title 21-14. 21-14, and we lost to 10th ranked Holy Innocents in the first round of the playoffs. Morgan County won the other side of the region. We won our side. We were 4-0. Banks 3-1. Dawson was 2-0. Union was 1-3, and Raven was 0-4. So we head into 2007 season. We lose a ton of seniors.
Oh yeah.
Lost a lot of leadership on the team, but a lot of players stepped up. Players of the week, week one. Offensively, Evan Collins, Bryant Meeks was defensively, and Devin Morris was special teams player of the week.
Yeah. Well,
I think you're 5-0 now versus Gilmer, if I'm not mistaken, or 4-0.
Yep. Well, Tim, nobody thought that was going to happen, my friend. You know, that was a game that I actually had an aneurysm during the game.
Yeah.
I was a nervous wreck, buddy. I was a nervous wreck. We had beaten Gilmer, really we had beaten them 4 times in a row. So it goes back to when Coach Harbin's last year, 03. So we had beaten them 03, 04, 05, and 06. And here I'm going down there with a bunch of, juniors, and sophomores, and a couple of seniors, and I tell you what, though, that senior group of Evan and Derek and we got Travis Sisson out for football that year.
Yeah, I'm just going to name them all off if you don't care. I believe I can, Coach. Josh, 9-2. Coach Dale, Justin Page, Justin Hall, Sean Powers, Skip Reynolds, Derek Jardigan, Evan Collins, Travis Sisson, Ryan Robertson, Cody Callahan, and Casey Rogers.
Yeah. Sure did. And then there was a boy that didn't even show up in here. His name was D.W. Gravely.
D.W. Gravely,
for us too. Yep. And, but anyway, you talk about a class. When they first came to us, I'm not sure they won a game in the 7th and 8th grade. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that they didn't. Okay. Anyway, make a long story short, one of the best players that class had transferred to Gilmer. And anyway, he was like their running back.
I remember this. Yep.
So he went to Gilmer. And so that whole off season was nothing about, just me, motivating this group right here, and anyway, I was nervous as all get off, Tim, before we got into the season, because I'm thinking, we're going to go down to Huff Mosley and they're going to chew us up and spit us out, and it's going to destroy us, but that's not what happened. But I was such a nervous wreck. I ended up having an aneurysm and ended up missing the next 3 games. I was stuck in the hospital for a week. I caught the Robbinsville game. I watched it. I watched the Pickens game, and I watched all of them were home games. I watched those all those games from my office there, because I didn't want anybody to know I was there. I wasn't supposed to be there, So I remember one time I got bored. I went out there. Yeah, I cut the grass. And I remember that made a big deal about me being on the lawnmower cutting the grass. I just needed to get out of the house, and so I went out there and cut the grass. And boy, I tell you what, you'd have thought I'd done, and now that I'm in insurance, I understand they were just afraid something was going to happen to me and I wasn't supposed to be there, So anyway, that was pretty funny. But, that team right there, very, very, very special. very special football team. And the way we handled Gilmer that game, they couldn't do anything against us. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they hit a couple passes on us, but by and large, we had a whole new group. If I'm not mistaken, Justin Hall was the only returning defensive guy, and Derek Jarnigan was the only returning offensive guy. Now we had Evan. They had played some. Sean had played some.
Yeah.
It wasn't like these guys were just, they weren't starters though.
Yeah.
And I tell you, those kids worked. They worked, and Derek Jarnigan just did everything right from his preparation. Everything was just dead right, and he set a tone. I'll never forget. Nick Dean was a upcoming sophomore at that time, and he had just gotten done, with baseball, and he came out a week late, I think, for spring. And I remember the rumor was that he didn't want to play football anymore. So I brought Nick into the office. Nick was a little guy then. I didn't think much about Nick. I mean, I saw him play defense, and I thought he was a really good defensive player. But he was a quarterback too. And so anyway, what was funny is I wanted to keep Nick around. And Nick's, he told me, he said, "Coach, that's just talk." He goes, "I'll be there. I love football. I'll be there. I'm playing." So that day at practice, I said, this is spring now. And I said, "Coach Chambers, let Nick run some plays with the first team." I'll never forget the look Coach Chambers gave me because, we had Sean as our back, he was our backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And,
Because he spent some, he
so
already
we
had
two
some
senior
time,
guys.
sophomore year.
Yeah. And I'll just never forget, Chambers looked at me, he goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because." And he just, he wasn't ready for that, because you understand Coach Chambers, he had practice planned out, the whole nine, so he was very organized. And I said, "No, let him run some snaps." And I'll never forget Nick making those older guys look bad out there. Oh, that was the best ever. And I remember telling Sean, I said, "Hey, Sean, you can play receiver now full time." We got our backup quarterback. He was like, "Cool, Coach," So it was great.
Awesome.
It was great, man. And so, Nick ended up playing a lot for us that year. Derek was obviously the starter that year, but I'll never forget. I would take Jarnigan out of the game just for the, just because I was mad at him for a misread or something, And then, Derek would just say, "All right, Nick." He never got mad. He would just cheer on the other guy, and then I put him back out there. You
got to love that. As a coach.
He was good to go. Absolutely. I mean, so unselfish. But it was a great year. We lost to Pickens. We lost to Pickens on a double pass that night. I was so they had me on so many drugs and stuff. I just remember that double pass, and I just remember, I was so good because that kept us from going undefeated that year. We didn't even see that coming, but
6 points.
When you look back
6
on
points.
it, that kept us from going undefeated. And but anyway,
so we go to.
I was able to come back.
Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I said I was able to come back and coach when we went to Oglethorpe.
Okay, Oglethorpe.
Yeah, well, no. I didn't coach against Putnam.
Okay.
It was Oglethorpe my first game back.
All right, so
I missed all the home games.
So we hosted Robbinsville first home game. We beat them 42-0. Players of the week was Powers on offense, Travis Sis defensively, and Jarnigan on special teams.
Yeah.
Of course, you weren't at the game, and then Pickens, we lost 20-14. Jeffrey Days was the offensive player of the week.
Yeah.
Skip Reynolds defensive, and Josh Gaddy special teams.
Yeah.
So and then we go to Oglethorpe. We beat them 28-2.
Yeah.
So you're back. So now you're back. Sean Powers, offensive player of the week, defensive player of the week, Josh Postell, and Matt Gray, who at the time was a young sophomore, I believe. Got special teams player of the week.
Matt had we ran a fake punt. Matt had we called it fish. It's where they snapped the ball to the up back and put it up underneath Matt's in between his legs. He ran around the corner. Nobody knew he had the ball till he was down the sideline. And he ended up getting knocked out, but that was one of the game-changing plays right there. I'll never forget that. That was a good play. That was a tough game we had up there. Going to Oglethorpe. They wanted us from that year before. That's for sure. Really tough game. But anyway, yeah, we were able to survive that one.
And then we go to Union County. We win 45-19. Players of the week were Evan Collins offensively, Josh Postel defensively, and Nick Dean was our special teams player of the week. And I remember me and you talked about this off camera, but this was the game where Postel blocked that punt, or actually caught the fake punt pass, and danced in the end zone for 6. And that was a big win, 45-19.
Yeah, Matt Gray had actually sacked the quarterback on a blitz, and the quarterback fumbled. And when he fumbled, he was actually throwing the ball, but it was kind of like a throw fumble type thing, and it landed right into Postel's, and he took it for a touchdown. And who would ever thunk it?
I think everybody. I think you told everybody in the school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Postel. He ended up having a couple interceptions that year.
I remember he had another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's another Fannin County Rebel out there, Josh Postel.
That game, it sounds like 45-19 that we dominated that game. It was 19-17 and midway through the first quarter.
I want to say Postel's interception got us the lead, if I'm not mistaken. I remember it being a tough game. That
was a very tough game. As a matter of fact, we had a locker room. We just made up our minds that we couldn't stop them on defense, and that we were going to have to score every play, every time we had the ball. And of course, we come right out and throw an interception right there to open up the second half, and they made it 19-17. I mean, their whole side of the field was rocking and rolling. I never forget, before halftime, Sean Powers, he had a touchdown catch and they took it away from him. Ty goes the receiver type situation.
Yeah.
And, both guys had their hand on the ball. Don comes up with it and they call it an interception. Well, I ended up staying on the field for about 10 minutes. Here I was just coming back from being sick.
Yeah.
I am arguing with the refs for about 10 minutes. I'm losing my mind out there. I couldn't believe that call. So anyway, yeah, that was another. If you go to Union, you're not going to get all, that's for sure. So anyway.
So then we play Dawson County. We win 13-7.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a picture. Jerry, there's a picture in the scoreboard right here of that game in the celebration. I can't find it. But anyways, 13-7, we beat Dawson. Jeffrey was player of the week on offense, Jeffrey Daves. Justin Hall, defense player of the week. And Josh Gaddy was our special teams player of the week.
Yeah. Justin Hall got defensive player of the game?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you. I was thinking it might have been Casey for that last second pass he broke up right there at the end of the game. And this is what we talk about going full circle. We were up 13-0 in the first quarter of that game. And then everything just went, every time we did something, we'd shoot ourselves in the foot with a penalty or a turnover. We let Dawson get back in the game. We had to, they scored right there in the middle of the fourth quarter. We, drove the ball down and ended up, we had a fourth down play and we missed it some way. I don't know if it was a drop or overthrow or whatever it was, but we missed a play. It was wide open. And anyway, they got the ball and they took it right back down the field, Tim. And anyway, they had a 4th and goal at the 5-yard line, and they threw a pass over in Casey's direction.
There's a picture right there of the celebration after the game.
Yeah, that was our post meeting celebration. And what I say by moving full circle, we won a game that we probably shouldn't have won by making a play at the end of it, and that was all Casey. He came out of nowhere to make that play. I remember that. Because I remember thinking when the kid threw it that was a touchdown. And Casey batted that ball away there in the corner of the end zone. And, just that's one of those exciting games, that boy, I tell you what, we had to ratchet a few things up that game because there was way too many penalties and way too many turnovers for my liking in a game like that. And to their credit, I didn't have to scream and yell at them. All I had to do was tell them,
They knew.
I didn't have to holler at them. They knew, exactly. Yeah. And boy, we cleaned it up the next week.
Yeah. So now we're 6-1 heading into Banks County, which would ultimately decide the sub-region. We travel to Homer, Georgia, and we win 42-28. Gaddy, player of the game, Justin Hall, defense, and special teams. Zach Leach was the player of the game.
I want to say we had two guys over 100 yards that night. I know Morris had a long touchdown. I know Gaddy had maybe 200 yards rushing. We did what we wanted to on offense against those guys. But they had that running back that had given us such a hard time when he was playing quarterback the year before. Yeah, I can't remember that kid's name. I'm glad I never have to look at him again because I tell you what, he gave us fits.
There's a picture of Gaddy. Anyway, probably broke one of his long runs right there.
Yeah. Look at that.
Maybe Drew Bowser early right there, number 12.
Yeah,
12
look at Drew
the block.
Early making the block. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's a kid that don't get mentioned a whole lot, but he was a very key to our success. He was a backup guy, unfortunately for him. But he had Gaddy and Morris behind him. What are you going to do? Those are two of the best athletes we ever had come through that school. And Drew just happened to be, in that mix. And, but I'll tell you what, now Drew was a football player, buddy. He wasn't no bigger than a minute now, but boy, did he know how to play. He was good. You see old Logan right there. And, we're sitting there blocking right there. That was a good play. Old Josh got his nose covered to the football real well. I tell you what, very focused team that year. Any challenge you put in front of them, man, they just matched it. It was great.
Yep.
It was great.
So then we host Rabun County, which would be senior night, but it wouldn't be our last home game. It would be senior night, but we actually had two more home games to in the year with the region championship and a state playoff game. So Rabun County comes into town. We beat them 27-14. Of course, you never lost to Rabun County, Coach. Players of the week, offensively, Evan Collins on the offensive side of the ball, Justin Hall defense, and Tyler Brown, another guy who doesn't get mentioned a lot on special teams. I know we all can tell stories about old Tyler Brown.
Love me some Tyler Brown now. He was another one. Like I said, he was like he was a kid. He played behind Jeffrey on the offensive line. Jeffrey was a special player. He just, like I said, Tyler was a great kid. So we found a place for him on special teams. And, buddy, he did not disappoint. He went down that field like a doggone madman. He loved playing Rebel football. And we found a spot for him, and he just one of my favorite kids. I remember one time I had to rush him to the hospital. We couldn't get a hold of his mama because, down that hole, she taught at West Fannin, you don't get a cell signal down there.
No service at all.
We couldn't get a hold of her. Tyler, he had passed out at practice. He had worked himself to death. And I put him in the truck, run him out of there. And anyway, finally got a hold of Miss Melissa, but Tyler, man, he was back the next day, what I'm saying? Ready to go, man. One of my favorite guys. I love me some Tyler Brown. I tell you what. One of my favorite guys.
Brown give a shirt off his back for anybody. He's a great dude. Great dude. So now we are hosting the region championship at home, Coach.
Yeah.
Hosting the region championship. We're playing a good Morgan County team who actually had the same record as Greene County on that other side. Washington Wilkes was 2-2 in the region over there, but they beat Greene County head-to-head.
Yeah.
get to host to have the chance to come to Blue Ridge to play us. We win the football game 21-14 region championship. Josh Gaddy was the offensive player of the week. Drew Thomas, a young sophomore, gets the defensive player of the week that week. And Nick Dean, special teams player of the week. Yeah. Coach, what did winning the region championship on our home field, what did that mean to you?
You know what, Tim, I know it sounds crazy, but we took a team that I didn't think was going to win 2 or 3 ball games that year. And when we practiced on Monday, we had our interview with ETC, Dave Garner, on Monday. And off camera, Dave asked me, he said, "What do you think, Coach?" I said, "We're going to win this football game. Trust me." Dave couldn't believe I said it because I never talk like that, ever.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, "We're going to win this football game." You know, and I told Chris Brown off the record, you know, preseason newspaper, you know, I told him, I said, "This team will be better than the 06 team." He couldn't believe I said that either. You know, and I'm talking, when I say I didn't think we'd win 2 a game, I'm thinking, you know, back in May, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, you know, in early August, but this team gelled so good. It was magical. It really was. It was magical. I can't pin it down. I wasn't there, you know, for 3 of the games. I wasn't even there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like I said, it wasn't about me, you know, and I've always said this. It was never about me, you know. Those kids just decided that this was what they're going to do. And by this time, Tim, in the weight room, I mean, in all seriousness, Tim, I've said this many a time. I could have went into the field house and read the newspaper, and I'd have known full well that whatever we had up there on the board to do, those guys would do it. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying to you? It was going to be done. Our leadership was there. Derek Jarnigan was the kind of quarterback you did not talk in that huddle when he was in there at all. He'd take a big boy like Meeks and smack him up against the head, you know what I'm saying, or Jeffrey, and people respected him. You understand? Yeah. It wasn't about, you know, could they whip him or anything, you know. Derek was a pencil, you know, but he had everybody's respect. He took his training serious. He took his, his football serious. He took his senior year serious, you know, and so everybody just kind of jumped on board. It was just a great, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, you got Matthew Gray and Drew Thomas and Nick Dean. They're contributing, okay, and they're 10th graders, okay. By the time, you know, by the time we were in the playoffs, a lot of those 10th graders were playing. And, you know, it was just a magical year. I mean, for me to sit there and say, because, you know, I was the most mealy-mouthed guy in the world. I just didn't, you know, I always thought we were going to lose, you know. I mean, and I was always nervous and bundled up. I was so calm that game. I knew we were going to win. I knew we were going to win. We were dominating them. We dominated that football game from start to finish. Now, it looks like 21-14. But they scored right there at the end, you know, and made it 21-14. But we dominated that football game from start to finish. Make no mistake about it. They had no chance against us. Yeah. And and listen, their athletes were unbelievable. They were unbelievable, some of the kids they had out there playing. But we were not going to be denied. And that team set out to do what the 06 team couldn't do, you know, which was win a region championship. And, you know, that was their focus and their purpose. You know, I can't explain it. You know, I remember there were times in August we were practicing. I didn't know if we'd win a game in early August. Yeah. I mean, we looked like, you know, because none of those kids had actually played, you know, but boy, we got it going. Coach Chambers did a wonderful job with our offense that year. We utilized, you know, Sean Powers. You know, Sean Powers had 25 catches, but 11 of them went for touchdown. Okay. Yeah. You know, and Derek probably threw for, you know, 1,200 yards, you know, and half of his completions were touchdowns, you know, so it was, you know, and then Gaddy and Morris just ran the the ball real well. And of course, Collins, he was our linchpin as a, fullback. We called him B-back, but Evan Evan was always a tailback. We had to convince him to play B-back for us. Well, it didn't take any convincing. I told him, I said, hey, this is the place where you're going to get the ball the most. I said, do you want to do it? He married up, no questions asked. I mean, it was good. Of course, Evan and Derek, they were like brothers, so they were always together. And, that mesh point was just like family, so this picture right here, this picture is just so awesome, to remember back then. I mean, it was just such a great feeling, there I am, I mean, got Matt Brain sitting behind me, Derek, Sean, Casey, Jeffrey,
just some
who didn't make the picture.
DW holding the pick, Postel front and center, letting everybody know we're number one. You got to love it. Just some guys we haven't mentioned that I know played a big part. Mason Head right there, Lucas Garrett, who was a good football player, Jamie Taylor. Of course, they're young guys in this picture that would go on to have good careers. Darby White right there was a football player. See Eric Payne, Logan back there in the back.
One of my favorite plays of that whole year. We kind of glossed over the Raven game, but that was senior night, and we got Cody Callahan. He we wanted to make sure we threw him the football before he graduated. This kid worked his tail off for 4 years, never had a chance. I mean, he's playing behind Will Godfrey and Sean Powers. I mean, there was just no place for him to go. And I think even, if I'm not mistaken, well, maybe the next year, Kurt Cross came into the program. But, it was just like, poor kid never had a chance. Well, we ran a one cut to him, because we didn't want to be like throwing the ball deep, in a game that we were winning. But, I mean, Cody, he snags that thing out of the air, makes a quarterback miss, goes running down the sideline, I mean, it looked like he'd been doing it his whole life, and I remember just tears coming into my eyes, I was just like, my God, I was so proud. That was probably my favorite moment of that whole year was him having that opportunity on senior night. Here's a kid that gave everything. He gave everything. Everybody loved him on the football team. We called him Fish, and that was a nickname Coach Hampton had given him, and everybody loved him. I remember somebody had done something to him in school, kind of picking on him a little bit, maybe because he was little, and I guess because Patrick wasn't in school anymore. But I remember Sean Powers running interference on that, and he got in a little bit of trouble with Miss Dillard about it. He had to come talk to me, and Sean told me the whole story, what was going on. He said, some guy was picking on Cody, and I just jacked him up and put him up against the wall or slammed him on the lunch table or something. I knew we were special then. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we didn't have that before. We didn't listen. Those guys when I first got to Fannin, if one of their teammates got beat up, whatever, probably they join in and make fun of him, and that's not saying anything bad about those guys. No. It was just, some of those guys were tight. I don't want to sit there and say that they weren't, but our team wasn't tight, if that makes any sense. And so, cut to this year, I mean, our team was tight, and for Sean Powers to take up for his buddy like that, man, it just meant the world to me. I told him, I said, hey, good job. I was like, don't get in trouble anymore, but way to take up for your teammate, Anyway, I know most people listening to this probably say, oh, that's wrong, I don't think that's wrong. You're supposed to take up for your teammates. Yeah. I mean, he didn't hit the guy or nothing, he didn't, what I'm saying. He just
absolutely.
It wasn't acceptable.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna mess with my teammate. so anyway,
so the 2007 season. Hold on, man. I still got to talk. We haven't talked about Holy Innocents. We got to talk about Holy Innocents.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh goodness.
We've got to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it, but we got to. They're ranked 10th in the state. They come to our house, host playoff. They beat us 21-7.
Actually, we were ranked 10th.
We were.
We were ranked 10th.
Okay. Yeah, we were ranked 10th. Yeah, we were ranked 10th. You're right. I see this now. We were ranked 10th. You're right.
Yeah. They come out of that Beaufort region with GAC, Blessed Trinity, not Blessed Trinity, I'm sorry. Beaufort, and then
was it Lovett?
Lovett, yeah.
Yeah.
And the only team that beat them with any significance was obviously Beaufort. And I mean, they were a good football team. We should have won that game, but there was a lot of reasons why we didn't. So
Powers was the player of the week. Powers was the player of the week on offense. Justin Hall defensively, and Nick Dean on special teams was the players of the week.
Yeah. Nick Dean had to actually kick a field goal for us that were an extra point that night because, we lost Jarnigan in the second series of the game. He got concussed. And so what happened the week before, we lost Josh Gaddy. He broke his leg in the Morgan County game. And he played with a broken leg, okay, and made a block that Devin Morris ended up scoring on to make it 21-7. One of the best blocks I've ever seen. And how he did it, I don't know to this day. But he broke his leg on a long run. He couldn't play. He was out, so that goes back to that old thing where you just could never, while I was in it, Tim, you could never enjoy it, and I'm not blaming, it happens. Those are the things that happen, but we lost Gaddy. So we're sitting there going, okay, we've got Drew, we've got Devin, but who else do we have, that can play that running back position? Yeah. So we took Nick Dean and worked him in as a running back, and so the whole time that week, he was working at running back, so he didn't get a whole lot of snaps at quarterback, And then of course we lose Jarnigan in the second series. Nick's got to go play quarterback, and he didn't work any reps that week. He ended up going, I think, he was 6 of 16 that game, which is, if you ever know Nick, he's a 75% passer, but wasn't his fault. He was a 10th grader. He got thrown into a situation, and we were playing a good football team. We just, like I said, we just lost, everything we had. You understand, we lost Matthew Gray earlier on to a knee injury for the season. We lost Zach Leach for the season. They were our two starting linebackers. We ended up, Drew Thomas was playing. We ended up playing Greg Folger in a state playoff game. He hadn't played all year long, not say anything bad about Greg, but Greg hadn't played all year long. And he ends up playing in a state playoff game. So we were just decimated at linebacker position, completely decimated. We just didn't have any answers, but, we let a guy get deep on us, good receiver they had. He hit a slant route on us, and we couldn't catch him. They hit a tight end one time. We didn't play our game. We were taken out of it early. Could not get back. They did a good job on us. And maybe we were just a little bit too hungover from the win, the week before, But I just never forget how bad those seniors felt after that game. You got guys like Postel, Skip Reynolds. I mean, these guys were the baddest dudes we had. You know what I'm saying? And they're crying in the locker room after, devastated. They gave everything they had. They gave everything they had.
I wish.
What are you going to do?
I wish we could have some of the players on so we could ask them what it means to be a Fannin County Rebel.
Well, I'll tell you what, that would be a great idea, for later on down the road, get some guys on there, because I'm going to tell you, we used to do we did a thing on senior night in between the you know, we come off the field early, and you know, we had all the seniors would say something, you know,
Yeah.
to the team about what it meant. And some of those stories, Tim, you know, it's just like I said, you talk about your heart swelling up, you talk about ready to go fight
Yeah.
somebody. You know, some guys don't say a whole lot. You know, later on down the road, you talk about, you know, your Nick Deans, your Drew Thomases, your Matt Grays. Those guys don't talk a whole lot. You know, it's hard to get anything out of them. But man,
Yeah.
when they speak, buddy,
You listen.
I'm telling you what, man, it's just, you know, and you're knocking down the door. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, to get out there on the field. You know, so like I said, you know, those guys, you know, everybody wanted to win for those guys. Everybody wanted to win for themselves. You know, tough loss. You know, tough loss.
Yeah.
That game was a tough loss. It was a tough one. But
Yeah.
we thought we had more to come. You know, we thought our best days were in front of us.